Hey everyone! My name is Michelle from greenerygal.com, and I sell greenery and florals and ribbons and embellishments for people who like to make wreaths, centerpieces, and floral decor. If you are new to my page, you can always text the word JOIN to the phone number 877-861-0546. That way, the next time I'm live, you will get a text message. Share this video, please sprinkle. If you are a new subscriber, I would love for you to hit that follow button so you can kind of keep up with everything. So friends, today we are doing a bead grass-ish wreath. Bead grass-ish. That's like totally a thing, right? Bead grass-ish. Now I say ish. If you guys have been around for, last month or so, y'all caught me when I made, this was one of two designs that we made that is more of a traditional bead grass design. We put in the bead grass the whole bushes. This one used 12. We also did a smaller one that used 6. We're not going to do that today. Today, we're actually going to be doing a little bit of fun designing, and I'm super, super excited about it. So I'm just going to put this one away here, and I'm going to replace it with something that looks way more boring. Okay. So this is an 18-inch grapevine. The wreath I had up before was a 14-inch grapevine. So we're getting back to the more traditional size that I know many of you like to use. So that's what we're going to be doing today. So now, why do I say it's a bead grass-ish wreath? Well, let me tell you. We are, of course, going to be using bead grass. These bushes are new to my shop. I launched them for you guys last week during my live sale. These bushes are way bigger than the bead grass that I had before. Now, the bead grass that I had before is unfortunately sold out. And I am not able to get more. I might be able to get more in like 2 or 3 months. I'm totally going to try. But for now, this is the bead grass that we have. You can see they're similar but different. This one is a lot smaller. The colors are very, very similar. This one is a little bit more warm toned, but it is beautiful. And we're going to be working with this today. But we're going to be doing something else too. Okay. We are going to be combining it with my rose leaves. These are my frost green rose leaves, and I love them. I actually made a reel last week that said if I could marry a greenery, it would be this one, and I'm so glad it's back. We're going to be combining it. Look at how this works together. Look how beautiful this combination is. Isn't that just spectacular? So we are going to be combining it with this, and we are going to be combining it with of this. So this is going to be a full-on greenery wreath. There are going to be no flowers, no fillers. You guys, I'm even contemplating not even putting a bow on it. I'm going to decide that. I think I'm like 50-50, so you guys can totally help me figure that out when we get there. But we're going to see what happens, okay? So what I've done so far, of course, I have my grapevine. I did put my little hangy loop on the back. I use the little raffia wire thingamajiggies. And I've got my 18-inch grapevine. Okay. Now this is going to be, I think we're going to do it like a crescent shape. Kind of went back and forth. Did I want to do, focal point in the middle and draping down, or crescent shape? I think I'm going to do the crescent shape just to be a little bit. So when you do a C-shaped wreath, you're actually going to be using a little bit less product than if you were to try and cover this whole wreath in its entirety. That being said, I did bring like 3 or 4 of each of the bushes we're going to be using because I have no concept of how much this is going to take. So we're just going to see. Okay. Okay. So we're going to start with my rose leaves. Now, what I love about rose leaves, of course, they are hand wrapped. The leaves themselves are beautiful. They are silk with plastic wired stems. They blend perfectly with the other greens that I've pulled for this piece. Now, what I like to do with these, I'm not going to go kind of put it in here like this. Okay. I mean, I could, but that's kind of a waste because it totally makes a statement, but it's not the statement that I want to make. So I actually like to micromanage my greens when it comes to bead grass. We're actually going to be micromanaging everything that we're doing. We're going to be cutting it up and chopping it away and doing so. Now I'm going to start by cutting up my rose leaves. Okay. So what I like to do, actually, these we could probably just pull them apart because they are paper wrapped. So I like to pull them apart into their little parts. Okay. And That is the advantage of using, sometimes if you're going to get extra stems, you're going to do some trimming. But we're basically going to cut this up into all of its pieces. So this piece here. And then what we're left with is our stem, which is going to go in the trash. Okay? Awesome. Okay, so let's see here. Now I'm going to start. So what I like to do with the first, now we're probably going to go through 2 or 3 of these rose leaves. Okay? What I'm going to do with the first batch is I'm just going to set my edges of my design. So like I said, this is going to be a C-shaped design. So we're going to have some coming out this way here and then coming down a bit here. Okay. So I have my glue pot. Can you guys see my glue pot? Hopefully, I think so. All right. And I'm just going to start. I'm going to put them in kind of around the perimeter, around the outside. Now I have used one bush complete, one spray, one of these sprays completely. So far we have used one. Now before we get any farther, I need to decide, you guys. Now, here's my thought. You can do it with just the greens. I have a plan for that in my head. You can use an understated bow. Of course, you could use a big bow. Or you could use something like some big focal flowers. So like a pretty cluster of 3 hydrangeas like right here, or peonies, or some big statement roses, just something to kind of give you a focal point right here. So the 2 options that I had pulled were the black and cream farmhouse. This is a mattress, a black and cream ticking. And this is the zigzag. I sell both of them. I have them both available. What I'm going to do, we're going to use this one. Okay. But what we're going to do is going to be a very similar technique if you did not use this. Now, if you were going to use this is going to be your more traditional bow. It's going to be big. It's going to be beautiful. It's going to be your transition point. So a transition point is where your greenery changes direction. So right now I have my transition point set to be right here because you see my greenery up here goes this way. My greenery down here goes this way. Okay, so my transition point is here. Normally, a lot of people like to do their transition point by putting a big bow. So just riffing, if we were to just kind of do a bunch of loops here, do a big bow, I'm not actually going to sit here and tie a bow, but you all hopefully can get the gist. But let's pretend this is our bow. We would put it here, okay? And then we would do the transitioning of the changing of directions behind the bow so you don't have to see that, okay? Now, instead what I'm going to do, and now that I'm actually looking at my greens, I feel like my transition point is a little bit low. So I'm actually going to do a little bit of a change. We can do that, friends. We are going to change. So my transition point is actually a little bit higher. So see what I did? I just made it so my transition point is right here instead of down here, okay? And I'll probably extend this arm just a little bit with some more rose leaves when we get back to that. But now we are going to, where did I put that other ribbon? Here it is. I'm going to use this little 5/8 ribbon. This is is it 5/8? 7/8. This is a 7/8 jute, okay? It is jute, so it is a little bit on the stinky side like all burlap products are, but it is super, super, super pretty, okay? I am going to do a mass of loops and some tails on this, okay? So I'm going to leave some, I hope I actually have enough on this roll because I've used it a bunch. I am going to just start with my pinching and my twisting, okay? Pinch. So let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So we have, oh boy, and I'm at the end of the roll, so that's what we're going to do. We're going to do our 9 loops. And I'm going to grab a zip. Just a simple bow using an understated ribbon. Lots and lots of loops. I'm just going in and kind of giving them a little bit of a fluff. Both of my tails are actually facing downward because I have an odd, when you have an odd number of loops, we have 5 on the top and 4 on the bottom. When you have an odd number of loops, I should not have taken that. You will have both of your tails in one direction, and I'm actually okay with that for this style of bow. because that means I can have my tails both hanging down. Okay, so I forgot to put in my zip tie. I'm just fishing that through. Okay, do a little trimming. Okay, so it's not going to be a super big, loud, and audacious bow. It's just going to be pretty loops. Want to kind of get it angled so it's just a little bit upwards. Okay, and we're going to go in and cut our tail. All right, so this is what we have so far. Now, if you are doing this design and you do not have a bow, the next step is going to be very similar to what I'm going to do. I'm just going to curl these to get them out of the way. Okay? All right. Now, let's go in with our leeks. Okay? So this is a leek bush. It is kind of in that same frosty green vibe. You can see how beautiful this all goes. This is going to be very monochromatic. So all of our greens are going to be sort of the same tones and shades and tints and all that jazz. But since I have a bow, what I'm actually going to do is, this is a pusher. All right. Now this is a big tuft. If I did not have my bow, I would be fine with putting this in like this. Okay, but because I have loops and I have to kind of work around the loops, I'm actually going to take off some pieces and we're going to string them along. We're going to be making our own stems. Again, remember I said we're kind of micromanaging our greens for this project. So I'm going to be rebuilding these on separate stems. And now we're going to be going in and piecing them in between our bow loops. Okay, make it so they kind of stick up a bit. I want the greens to look like as if they were growing out of the bow. Okay, so I'm going to make a stem. I cut a piece. I'm just going to fish it through. Grab my needle nose. I'm going to give it a little curl so that the greens will not go flying off, and I've just made a little stem. Okay. The pieces that are going in and around our bow loops are going to be a little bit more time consuming because we have to kind of do this that we're doing. But once we get that, we'll be able to start using larger clusters once we get that out of the way. And then we can also start to feather in some of our bead grass. Okay. You guys with me so far? But the nice thing, the reason that this works nicely with the leeks is because the leeks are relatively straight. They're not super curly and bunchy. And so it's like easy to kind of piece them in around our ribbons, you know, and they'll kind of flow with the bow, right? They'll flow with the bow. You like that?
Yeah, that's a fun one.
You like that. And the other nice thing about when you do that is it also helps when you do the greens like this. It actually helps to support your loops. So this ribbon is wired, but it is helping to kind of make your loops kind of stand up where you want them to go. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying, friends? And we're just basically making a bed. So now I've gone through and I've put greens kind of around most of the loops. Now I'm going to start feathering in some pieces around the side. All right, let's take stock of what we've done so far. I have used 3 stems. 1, 2, 3 stems. This bush has, this bush actually has 9 stems in it. Okay, so I have used 1/3 of this bush so far. Let's start to tease in a little bit of our bead grass. Okay. Now for these, these are also a pusher. This bush has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I think this bush has 12 stems. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. This bush has 12 stems. Okay. So you get a lot of bead grassy goodness on here. And for these first few pieces, I am going to slide it up and be super bunchy. Okay. And now we're going to start. I'm actually going to try, you guys, I'm going to go off book. I'm actually going to take off just a few pieces of this. I'm going to cut myself a little baby stem. Just a little baby stem. And I'm going to glue them, I think, because my little baby stem is too small to curl. No, it's not. Just want to get those sort of lined up. I wanted to see if I could get this kind of like right here in the middle. Right there. Cross your fingers that it works, my friends. Big old glob of glue. In this case, we're actually going to be sticking to the ribbons and the bow itself. But we can kind of push it through just a bit because our ribbons are a little bit holy. They got some holes in them. We're going to see how that works. No, that didn't work very well. There we go. Sort of. We're going to let that dry. We'll let that sit. You want to try and get some greens around every loop if possible. You can do it. You think? We're going to find out.
Only one way to find out.
Only one way to find out. But I basically want to kind of have my loops layered in with my leeks. And that's going to take a couple more cuts. Okay. When you're doing a design like this, getting the greenery kind of really filled in around your loops is kind of like the most important part, in my opinion. Everything else is going to come together super quickly. Like, I feel like there's a big hole right there. So I'm just going to cut one more piece and cross our fingers and hope that's enough. All right, now I'm going to go back in with my bead grass and just continue filling out some of these areas and sort of kind of intersperse. So we're going to kind of alternate. I'm going to kind of be alternating between the bead grass and the leeks. Now, remember I said when we're not working around our bow, we can start to use larger chunks of the leeks. Just for time's sake and for fullness's sake. So this is a clump of like 3 pieces that I've slid together. And I feel like we can just plunk that in right there. And I'm just going to take this, slide it up. And it's just really, really interesting. You have the straight leeks and then you have the serrated little bead grass. And it's just a very, very pretty combination. And they're all in the same tone and color family. So it just works really, really nicely. And it's just going to be shaggy and luscious and gorgeous. Gorgeous. Now, like I said, this is a little bit of a micromanagey technique on your greens, right? Because we're cutting each stem and that's okay. I mean, it's going pretty quickly. However, that being said, I'm actually going to go back to some rose leaves now. Okay, so we're going to go back to our rose leaves. I don't want to keep the rose leaves just in the perimeter. I want to also make sure that I intersperse some pieces kind of in and around, kind of mingle it all together, right? So I'm going to take some of my rose leaves and I'm going to pop them in. I don't want to keep them just around the perimeter. I do want to sort of integrate them in to the design a little bit. So it doesn't look like you just took a bunch of greens and a bunch of grassy stuff and plunked them on a bed of rose leaves, right? We want to We want to kind of layer. Because, you know, in nature, plants will go where they want to go, right? They don't give two shakes what else might be growing there. Unless you're something sassy like a sunflower that has the allelopathic chemicals that keep other plants from growing where it is. Unless you're a sunflower. Sunflowers are a little bit sassy like that. But I'm going to save this. I'm going to go back to my other one. So I'm still on my first bush of bead grass, friends, and I am finishing up with my first bush of leeks. And I am just on my second spray of the rose leaves. So to give you an idea on quantities. Kind of where I figured I would be at this point. So I'm quite pleased with that. And I'm just going around looking for holes and gaps, and then I'm going to just continue on. I feel like we can extend this just a little bit more. So let me go with this piece of rose leaf here. We're going to put it like right there. I want to make sure this has nice presence to it. There we go. I am now starting in on bush 2 of the bead grass. And I don't think we're going to get much past bush 2. I'm kind of thinking it's going to be 2 rose leaves, 2 bead grass, and 2 leeks. That's kind of where, what I'm guessing here. And so as you can see, I'm just alternating. Sometimes I'm doing the leeks, sometimes I'm doing the bead grass, sometimes I'm doing rose leaves. And that's basically the gist of what we got. I feel like I have a big concentration of leeks right here, so I'm going to try and sneak in some bead grass just to break it up a little bit. But because all of these greens are the same kind of cool tones, they just work together magically, right? They all kind of flow, so it becomes this really pretty, shaggy, luscious bit of happiness. And frankly, I am smitten. Now I am bunching, but like this one, I don't necessarily need to bunch it all the way up. Because, you know, the more you bunch, the less length you have. So as we kind of get to our little ends and edges here, we kind of want to make sure that it's not too bunchy. And y'all can just play with it. I mean, like I said, I've never done a design using these 3 specific greens before, but I have used similar. One of my most popular tutorials that I ever did was using the rose leaves, a lavender, and a eucalyptus. And they all kind of had the similar cool tone vibes to this. And you know what, the technique is the same. Like I use I used a 1.5 inch bow. Like it's all kind of similar. So once you have the basic recipes, you can switch stuff out. Now, if you wanted to add flowers to this, you could. A 60919 would be lovely. It's wispy. It comes in a bunch of different colors. You could do that. You could do spiky things. Like I said, you could do a lavender. It would be very, very pretty. I do have a beautiful lavender in my shop. You can also do anything that just has some sort of a spike, right? With this technique, or you could do tulips, things that are kind of elongated, I think would work really well in kind of preserving this directionality. Once you plop a big, like a peony or something right here, it's going to look pretty, but it's going to kind of ruin the vibe of like this kind of shaggy fluffiness. You know what I'm saying? So if you wanted to kind of keep the same vibe, use flowers that are longer. So for example, tulips, you can piece some tulips in if you wanted to. Or you could go with things that just have a more of a spiky, pointy habit. So like a lavender would be lovely. I have some grape hyacinth that would work wonderfully. I have some heather that would look beautiful. And, you know, stuff like that. Okay? All right, I'm looking for some more rose leaves to kind of go in here. I'm going to try and find a space for them. Very nice. Kind of maybe want to try and get one piece like right in here. Okay. All right, I still have 2 pieces of rose leaves. For completion's sake, we're just gonna find some places to tuck them. That was rose leaf number 2, gone. Now I still have a couple of pieces. I still have a lot of leeks and a few pieces of the bead grass. So I'm gonna look, remember I said I had some concerns around this area. So let's go in there with some bead grass. Okay, I'm going to transition to the bead grass again. I feel like I made it just a little heavy right here, so I'm going to put in a piece of bead grass right above it. And this is really just an exercise in like evening out your edges and such. Like that just makes all the difference. I don't know if you guys can tell from the video, but because it's kind of the side that's not close to the camera, but I promise you 'tis the right thing to do. All right. 2 more pieces of bead grass. But in the end, we used 2 bead grass, 2 of the leeks, and 2 of the rose leaves. So 2, 2, and 2. Not too shabby. And this is gorgeous, beautiful. I'm going to sit with it, but I actually may go in and add a few larger loops of the ribbon. Except I'm out, so I can't do that with you guys here on camera. Just to give my bow a little bit more thickness, I'm actually just going to take my ribbon and put it on a pick, take some loops and put them on a pick and stick them in here. Just to kind of give my bow a little bit more of a presence kind of towards the outside of the design. But I need to go grab another roll from my warehouse. Here's what we got. Beautiful, wonderful. I absolutely love this. Absolutely love it. It is lush. It's just fluffy. Like you want to just kind of sit here and like go like this. And I hope that you have a wonderful week. And that's what I got for you today. Okay. Thank you so much for joining me, everyone. I love your comments. Y'all, I hope you have a blessed week. You love how full the greenery is. Yes, Peggy, when you layer the greens like this, it's just magical. It's just a little bit magical, right? And you know, 2 bushes of leeks, 2 bushes of bead grass, and 2 sprays of rose leaves. So not too terrible. And it's a neutral everyday design. The greens go together beautifully, and it's just luscious. It's luscious and fluffy, and you can just pet it all day. So have a wonderful evening, friends. Thank you again for joining me, and I will catch you all in the next live. Bye-bye.